Hello, everyone. I'm always really excited about doing sessions after lunch. Not. But the silver lining is we've got a coffee break coming up. So stay with me for the next 30. And I promise you, you will learn something new and exciting. If not, drinks are on me tonight. Okay? Awesome. So we have a great topic to talk today, which is how can you unlock growth with first-party data and the power of retail media. Good afternoon. My name is Varun Budhiraja, and I manage the data collaboration business for AppsFlyer in the Asia Pacific region. Now, when I was building this presentation a couple of days ago, I thought I was going to ask in the room how many people know about first-party data. But if last 24 hours have taught me anything, this is the hottest topic in the room, so I can probably skip this one and get straight to the fact that first-party data is the king. And rightly so, right? It is the most direct relationship, the most reliable relationship that marketers have with their customers today. And unlike second or third party data, this is clean, this is compliant, and deeply rooted in customers' behavior. Now, leveraging first party data isn't just about a good business practice. In fact, this is what separates winners from losers. And don't trust me, trust BCG and Google that says that marketeers that are relying on first-party data are seeing a revenue uplift or up to 3 times. So this is what separates winners from losers. Now let's look at this beautiful lady on the screen. This is what image of first-party data or customer data look like for marketeers in the last many years, and they've really enjoyed this ultra HD clear picture. But things like data fragmentation, regulations, platform changes are making this picture blurrier and blurrier every single day. And that is exactly where retail media networks come in. Now, I'm not surprised, and I hope you are not too, that 25% of ad spend this year alone is going to be on retail media platforms. That's 1/4 of the ad spend globally, imagine that. And very rightly, because retail media platforms are actually built on first-party data. Clean, compliant, driven for performance. We are here to win. Now, some of you may be thinking, what is retail media anyways? Right? Retail media is when all of these brands, the likes of Flipkart, the likes of Jio, likes of Grab, when they leverage their first-party data and offer advertising options on their own inventory, which is on their own platforms, or let activation of data outside their platforms to the likes of Meta, Google, that is what a retail media network is. Now, for retailers, this is a very profitable business. Sanjay and I were getting a masterclass last night on e-commerce and retail, and one thing that stood out was how thin the margins are today in the core categories of retail. Single digits. The margins on retail media could be 5 or 10 times of that. So imagine as a retailer how profitable this business is for you. Your core categories give you single digit margins. Retail media give you sometimes 5, 10 times more margins than that. Now for brands, this is an opportunity to get a much richer picture of your customers back. You can overcome signal loss with reliable first-party data. You can connect with the right users at their perfect moment. You can diversify your media mix to really maximize your reach. And most importantly, and close to my heart, is deliver personalization at scale. Now, some of you here are app marketers, app owners, and you may be thinking, well, I don't sell my products on retail brands. So what does my brand have to do with retail media? Now, this is where things get even more exciting. Most brands partner with retailers that don't actually carry their products. And this is what we call the non-endemic opportunity. You don't sell your products, but you can still leverage that data to reach the right audience. Now let's take an example of how retail data can be used by fintech marketeers. And I know we have a lot in the room today. I've had a privilege of speaking to some of you guys in the last 24 hours. You can leverage retail data to target high income households. You can leverage ride-hailing data to target people who are using premium services or corporate users. You can leverage telecom data to target young tech-savvy users who are keen on getting modern financial services. Travel data to look for frequent travelers. And the hottest vertical these days, quick commerce, to target the frequent buyers with cashback offerings. Now, while the picture of retail media might look great, and some of you may already be ready to jump on this opportunity, there are still some things that are holding brands back from working with the retail media partners. And the first one is the privacy and security of the data. Now, remember, it's built on first-party data. It includes private identifiers. So this is the first concern. Followed by an entry barrier, which sometimes means limited automation, lack of self-serve, and we know marketeers love to control things, right? They want that experience where they can build campaigns, create segments on their own. And last and most importantly, transparent and independent measurement. You don't want the retailer to be grading their own homework. You need a party that can really tell you how these campaigns or this collaboration is really working for you. Now, to learn more about this opportunity and what is really these drawbacks and how we can overcome them, we have someone really special today, Mr. Gulshan Verma, who is the CEO of JioAds. And like we said in the last panel, we cannot have a discussion without somebody from Reliance. So please, a big round of applause for our Gulshan. Welcome, sir. I think Gulshan is a very popular person in the room. Everybody knows him. He knows everybody. And as we have learned through the last session, nobody needs introduction of Reliance and Jio. But Gulshan, still, maybe a few words about yourself and something that maybe this room doesn't know about you. We start with that. And also a little bit about the JioAds business, because we believe this is the newest, not the newest, one of the newest baby in the Reliance businesses.
Yeah, you can hear me, guys? So, somebody just asked me where my accent came from. Like literally just asked me. So, born in India, grew up in the UK, spent 8 years in the US, Chicago and LA. Then I moved to India for 5 years, then another 5 years in Singapore, and now for the last, I want to say 6, 7 years, it's been in India. So this is my second stint in India. Within that, like, it shows you how small a room is. The previous panel, I both worked with pretty much everyone in that room there. So it's not me that's popular, I just, we all know each other and we all work well together. I don't know whether things know a lot about me or whether people know a lot, but you can tell from my picture, well, there was a picture. I am probably the biggest comic book nerd going. Marvel, X-Men, since like the age of 15. So that's pretty much it. JioAds, I'm happy to kind of bounce around a bit. The way I talk about it is, Reliance is a very interesting company. So for those of you who don't know Reliance, a good way to think about it is we are 3 large businesses. I think one is our energy businesses and energy to chemicals. So we have everything from, petroleum, solar energy, gas, the whole thing. We're also the largest retailer in the country. So we have, at last count, 50% share of all organized retail in India, both offline and online. Offline is bigger for us, but online is there. Arpan, who I work very closely with, leads Agio, but we've just launched Shein in partnership with the Chinese company. We have 19,000 stores. I think we have daily footfalls of about 4 million just in our grocery concept. And then there's Jio, which we talk a lot about, but basically made us from one of the most expensive and slowest internet ecosystems in the world to pretty much the cheapest in the entire world. And I'm happy to go whichever direction you want. Happy
No,
to.
I mean, this is absolutely great. And I think you, as a brand, sit on a ton of data, capture a very big part of India and Bharat. And I can say thank you on behalf of all my women friends for bringing Sheen back because they were really missing that from the market. So
It's a soft launch. Please don't order right now. Take some time. Okay.
awesome. I think we have a bit of time. A few questions for you. I think I spent the last 10 minutes talking about the rise of retail media networks. But for some of you in the room, I think a first question could be that what is really the value that a retail media network provides today over and above, let's say, the traditional channels, specifically in terms of audience targeting and ROI?
Yeah, and let me talk a bit about that. I think the network part is something that gets missed out about a bit. But broadly, you should break it down into people who sell endemic brands, people who sell their stuff on the platform, and people who don't. I'll give examples of a couple. So it's relatively straightforward. I want to advertise where my customers are shopping. That works offline, that works online. So in our Smart Bazaar concept, we have 3,800 stores. The daily footfalls that we run is about 4 million. People are spending 45 minutes in our stores, and they're spending about 2,000 rupees each. If you look at like Agio as a concept, which is one of our e-commerce brands, it's billions of dollars plus in sales. We have 200 million downloads. We have 120 million plus registered profiles. And that's valuable because, you know, if you think about it, somebody's buying something, something's giving of interest. Something is coming to you. We know the house they live in. We know the credit cards they use. We know what kind of things. I mean, and then that can be leveraged in multiple different ways. So, you know, people don't think about this a lot, but we know, and we can, I would probably say no, infer is a better one. Which households have young kids versus teenagers versus preteens, because they buy different sets of clothes. If you look for people who are looking on, you know, for house kids, you know, with dresses for 2-year-old girls to like 4-year-olds, that's a pretty strong signal. If you look at JioMart, where people are ordering diapers, that's a pretty interesting signal. There's pretty much no other way to get that at a household level anywhere else. So there's the endemic brand, which is obviously I'm selling, people are looking for my stuff, or people are looking in my category. Can I bring new customers, old customers? That's straightforward. But then you start thinking about external opportunities. And the external opportunities, for example, Rohit and I were having a conversation last night. He used to run marketing at Shadi.com. Now, he used to leverage Amazon data a lot because these are people who are transacting. And people who are transacting are also looking for life partners. Very interesting, uniquely Indian opportunity in India. So I think there's opportunities everywhere. And then the piece that gets missed is the network part of it, which is it's not just about reaching them when they're shopping. You can also build profiles. You can also reach them across our video networks, which now includes Jio Hotstar, across display. Another example, we have MyJio, where people come and recharge their phones. We have somewhere between 2 and 3 million recharges a day, which is roughly about 150 rupees a month. Okay, so suddenly you're talking about 60 million recharges, 90 million recharges on a good month, spending 100 rupees. You're basically talking about 9,000 crores like a month, $1.5 billion every month. Those things become super interesting. And that's fundamentally what the opportunity is, I think, right now, which is the network part, the retail part, the insight part, and the data part.
What I'm taking from this is that when my girlfriend moves in, they know. When we get married, they know. When I'm having a baby, they know. So really, really rich data signals, right? Getting the customer at the time of intent when they're ready to make the purchase. I think that's the value that a retail media network offers today over any other traditional network. So,
I mean, I would add one more thing to that, which is again, this is my perspective and opinion, so take it for what it's worth. I think a lot of commercial search has moved away from general web portals to, the commerce portals. The way I used to describe it when I lived in the US, Jaguar can mean the car, it can mean an animal, it can mean, if you live in Northwest US, a sports team. But you have to figure it out. But when somebody's looking for a Jaguar on an auto site, we know what they mean. And that commercial intent is much higher. And that's why the ROI or ROAS is also much, much more interesting.
That's a really interesting insight, and I think we were talking about search, and you'd given me a really good example of a collaboration that you did with one of the largest search engines in the world. So why don't you talk a little bit about that and let everybody understand a real case of how this collaboration looks like?
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting example. So like Google is now working with JioAds to advertise, and so they do everything from phones, they do everything from search. So this is obviously, as search is undergoing a very existential change, thanks to AI, thanks to Gemini, they will work with us, as an example, on our retail network, where actually they ask really interesting things. So they want to do a brand engagement where if you're ordering, I think this was mushrooms, and I think this was something that we did, where you can ask questions, and they would call them Googlies. So they would put Googlies, and we would actually put it in stickers onto our products when people were buying them, okay? And people would ask questions, and you could look it up, and there was a QR code. And obviously they're using that conversation as well. We've had other advertisers. So like Google Pay is a great example, right? We have this many footfalls, we have our own postcodes, and people are waiting, and then they go and advertise in our stores. We worked with them to brand the till. We make radio announcements in our stores. We have a little pop-up which says, hey, here's a specific offer with Google Pay. And people are more likely to use it. Because we can also measure the attribution downstream, which is, what's the percentage share of transactions that go via Google versus other competitors. That's a really interesting context.
Attribution is absolutely really important. But this is, I think, really exciting because a brand like Google, the largest search engine in the world, leveraging retail media to drive offline to online, sounds really, really powerful. But Gulshan, we know that 25% of global ad spend this year is going to be on retail media channels, right? But when it comes to adoption in India, like there are still some challenges, like some apprehensions from brands. And you being in the business, like what are some of the key challenges that you see brands have today when it comes to adopting retail media?
I mean, there's a lot, to be honest. I think obviously the first one, and some of them we talked about already. So there's privacy issues. It's a new area for us. I mean, I think we opened as Reliance with media advertising or retail advertising not much more than about 18 months ago. It's very hard to think about self-serve in that environment. I think some parts of we've automated as much as possible. For example, the search ads and the product listing ads, but there's a whole bunch of other things that we kind of do. So I think that's definitely one area that we need to kind of work with. I think the elephant in the room is always going to be, who's going to verify the data? And I have very open conversations with that. Get me a drink, I'm going to have a conversation with you. So who's going to open the data? Who's going to verify it? What is the attribution window? Is it post-click, first-click, view-through, etc.? And we've done tests. I mean, like we worked with a jewelry brand as an example. And we've seen that if they advertise on our connected TV network and they advertise downstream together, they've seen examples where with the Dhanteras, it was like they almost had they doubled the order value, so 98% increase in average order value. There was a 30% increase in sales. So suddenly you're talking about a 160% increase in a very short period of time. So how do you kind of put those together? But it's really, really hard. I think for large advertisers and large partners of ours, it's also a bit more complicated because they've got it very channelized. So when we work with startups, for example, pretty much it's one person doing everything or two people doing everything, and everything happens together. But if you think about some of the larger partners we work with, and especially in the retail space, like FMCGs, they've built this e-commerce channel partnerships who are only interested in one thing, which is ROAS. But the question becomes, I'm making it up right now, and this is kind of interesting because I'm going back to give some Agio data or Agio insights. In the area of jeans, okay, only 25% of people looking for jeans actually specify a brand. 75% of them is actually generic terminologies. And then if you break down the brands, X brand, no brand has more than 5% of that 25%. So suddenly you have like different segments of people who just want jeans, people who want your competitors' jeans, and people who want your jeans, and how do you kind of put that together? Okay, so it is complicated. We are also learning, to be very frank. It really started, while with Amazon and Flipkart have done a fabulous job of building that, they're also trying to go upstream and build like brand partnerships and the full funnel attribution, which is what people want. And we definitely are looking for partners. And Sanjay, I've talked, you and I have talked about how do we build this ecosystem together. Okay.
I think you've highlighted some really, really good points. And when it comes to challenges, I think Tammy and I speak to a lot of retailers, a lot of brands, and we can really attest to the fact that it's still evolving, it's still new. For a lot of retail, like for a lot of brands wanting to do these partnerships, there are definite concerns, but things like concerns about privacy, things like concern about we want to be building our own campaigns, like we want an individual, independent, neutral party to verify. I wonder if there is a company that can actually do all of this. Just kidding.
Yes.
Awesome. I think we're coming close to the end of our discussion. The last question that I have for you, and it relates back to the previous question as well, which is, I'm a brand, I'm in the market, I'm convinced retail media is great. I want to now look at which retail media partner that I should actually work with. So are there any considerations that brands should have in the room about when they're looking at deciding to work with a retail media partner?
The quick answer is give me a phone call. The more nuanced answer is, look, one way is we have partners who get 50% of their share from us, but actually they're only X percent, like less than single-digit percentage of our total market opportunity. So if you're selling on the platform, I think the first thing I think about is, do you understand your market penetration? Do you know, out of the category of X 100,000 people who buy groceries, what your percentages are? I think, quick commerce is obviously a big interesting thing, but if you're able to work with your retail media partner to understand that, that's always going to be interesting. Then I think if you're looking and you're non-endemic, or if you're looking a bit more upper funnel, there's a lot of interesting things, and we're also growing our capabilities right now. So, for example, we work with Amex, where people buy luxury items, and we target them to sign up for an Amex card. Now, that universe is very, very tiny. It's in the hundreds of thousands of people who buy on Agio Lux, as an example, or people who go through our stores. But there are new things that we're building out every quarter where we try and put it together. So I think one area that we've probably not figured out is this relationship is primarily advertiser to retail media people. We've never really gone the agency route in this conversation. And I think if you're going to go into the full funnel attribution, we will have to figure out how to make partners out of people like yourselves, people like the agencies, because it can be very custom.
No, and thank you for addressing this question for both endemic and non-endemic, because as an endemic brand, I think if my category share with a specific retailer is low, that is probably my lowest hanging fruit. And for somebody who's non-endemic, I think buying retail media today is challenging. Being able to offer a much more smoother experience on perhaps, a more of a managed service is where I think non-endemic brands could potentially look at as well. But you're absolutely right. I think on working with the entire ecosystem, whether it's your agency partners, a measurement platform that can deliver independent measurement, I think those are very, very critical too.
Yeah, we still haven't all aligned as an industry in terms of what is the right attribution window. Like in search, very early on, they figured out how to move budgets from one search engine to another, then one search engine beat everyone else, so it was kind of a pointless effort. But in this world, there will not be, I suspect, one overwhelming e-commerce player. There'll be vertical specialists, there'll be horizontals, there'll be time specialists in the case quick commerce. If you look at fashion, even in Reliance, we have Reliance Trends, we have Agio, Shein's come in, Tira sells in a broad. There's a lot of overlap with different attributes and different audiences. So we'll have to think about like what that means.
Absolutely. I think we need to work together as an ecosystem to make this a lot more appealing, to make this a lot more measurable. And they're calling it the third wave of digital advertising. So I think the ownership is on us and our partners to make sure that this becomes appealing for everybody. Gulshan, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this, and I hope audience enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. So thank you so much.
Thanks.